As I consider the work we do in health and wellness, I'm particularly cognizant of the deep, meaningful conversations my counselors and psychologists have with our students. I'm reminded of Chickering's theory of identity development that grounds much of how we think about our students' growth. Many of the issues we work with are complex and multidimensional, yet at their core we often find identity to be the basis for quite a lot of our students' problems. It is certainly expected and often predictable. As students are making that somewhat tumultuous transition from childhood to adulthood, they experience a good bit of incongruence related to who they are and how they are going to fit into this world. With identity contributing so critically to a young adult's self-esteem, it is imperative that institutions commit resources toward maintaining identity centers on campus. While our counselors are prepared to help students clarify who they are and heighten their self-worth, it is often the type of supportive community found in identity centers where the most self-discovery and growth occurs. As stated in the CAS standards for best practice, championing social justice and equity on campus is a foundational core principle of our work. Therefore, as identity centers face scrutiny and justification for resources, our offices within health and wellness, and in particular counseling and psychological services, can and will be a strong voice for support of the value of these centers. In Chapter 13, Wren provides several reasons why identity centers exist and should persist. Particularly in sessions with counselors, we find that we address a number of different themes with students. Wren states that identity centers serve to respond to non-inclusive campus cultures. We, too, deal with the themes of mattering and marginalization with our students that are often addressed in identity centers. Yet our work in these areas tends to be more personalized and private. Thus, we are not recognized as critical players in the efforts to advance the causes of social justice on campus. Where I see room for improvement is the collaboration between identity centers and counseling services. Although not an academic department, our counselors and psychologists are classically trained clinicians whose credentials mirror those of the faculty. In fact, both of our psychologists teach part-time each semester. Therefore, it can be suggested that coordinated efforts will address another of Wren's rationales for maintaining identity centers, that of bridging academic and student affairs. These types of partnerships clarify the understanding of the campus ethos, specifically as experienced by groups in the minority. When counselors share themes with administrators of identity centers, and vice versa, strategies to improve conditions and educate the community become more effective and tailored to the specific needs of our student population. As suggested by Wren, messages that make students feel unwelcome can be quite subtle and go unrecognized by many on campus. These microaggressions occur daily and add to what some students experience as a hostile environment. When administrators discuss these microaggressions and begin to identify patterns, they can work toward raising awareness that our learning community is not equally welcome for all. Recognizing that some identity centers have a strong focus on race and ethnicity is a good segue for Chapter 12, the challenges with discussing race in higher education. I don't believe that it is appropriate for our offices to lead the discussion on race relations, as it is imperative that we appear neutral and unbiased to all students. However, I do firmly believe that we should be a key contributor to the conversation of best methods for addressing the highly sensitive topic of race relations. Our community is fertile ground for facilitating learning experiences that literally put pluralism into action. The role of our counselors might be best served as neutral parties who can assist students having difficulty coping with the feelings and ideas raised in these race relations learning experiences. In order to create robust dialogues and the types of exchanges that are enlightening and empowering, we must first begin to validate all students as knowers. As Park points out, white students have generally not felt validated as knowers on the subject of race, or feel capable of having anything to contribute to the conversation of race. Furthermore, white students are fearful of discussing race candidly for fear of being labeled a racist. Without engaging everyone in the conversation, validating all students as knowers, and creating a safe space to share openly, we will not produce the meaningful dialogue that we so desire. I suggest that my staff, again specifically the counselors, could spend one session with each student prior to an open dialogue. The objective would not be to influence students' thinking, but rather to help them learn to articulate their understanding of race. Park reminds us of what Baxter Magolda stated, saying that validating students as knowers validates their capability to think and construct knowledge. It does not validate misunderstanding of concepts under study or interpretations that lack foundation. This is precisely why counselors could help students connect what they believe they know and why they have constructed this knowledge prior to participating in a controlled discussion. In closing, it seems critical for administrators to reflect on what they believe they know as they engage students around issues of race. In other words, how are they constructing their knowledge? Are their beliefs based on anecdotal evidence from perhaps 2 or 3 students who are always in their offices? Are we transplanting our understanding of other institutions where we have formerly worked onto Wilmington State University? How do our personal experiences and biases shape the way we approach our work and intervene with our students? In Chris Mundell's follow-up to Park's commentary, he suggests that we may be witnessing the emergence of a generation that acknowledges the continued existence of racism, but at the same time seeks to challenge the degree to which it actually preserves inequalities and the degree to which it matters in their daily lives. Certainly, there is much for us to understand regarding our students' attitudes of race and its factor in contributing to a just and equitable environment for all to learn and engage in.